Welcome to School Britannia, the podcast where two Aussies teach Brits their own history. This is my friend Claire.
And this is my friend Ellie. What brief bit of history are you going to tell me about today, Eleanor?
Well, Claire, as an Australian, I get very, very excited about snow and ice and things that are cold.
Yes.
Because we come from a very warm country. And so I decided to tell you about frost fairs, which were these big, beautiful, crazy ice parties that people used to have on the frozen Thames.
Oh, wow.
So every few years, there would be a super cold winter and the Thames would freeze all the way up to London Bridge, and the ice was so thick that you could wander across it. And that's pretty crazy because I think you probably know that the Thames at London is like
massive.
It's a tidal Thames as well. So it's open to the ocean, which means that the water's a bit brackish and and the ocean water.
I never thought of that.
Yeah, so it comes up the Thames, up to Teddington Lock, I think. Might have to check that. But I think
we're calling it fact now. That's how that works.
So that's pretty insane. But
so it was like proper cold.
It was proper cold. And the reason it was proper cold is because there was a tiny ice age that happened.
Sure.
And I'm just
one of those casual small ice ages we throw out every now and again.
So I think probably a few people have heard about this, and I very cleverly have not put anything in my notes about it. But basically, the period between like 1400 to about the 1850s was a lot colder than it was today. I'll tell you a bit more about that in a second. So, two factors made frost fairs possible. The first was climatic, which means that from the 14th century to around 1850, there was a little ice age that gripped Europe as far as the Mediterranean, with periodic Arctic winters. So kind of like, you know how they had the big winter here this year, called The Beast from the East. Kind of like that.
Best winter ever.
But like longer and
Everyone
harder.
was furious, and I was so happy to see snow.
Snow! So not only rivers froze, but the coasts bordering the southern North Sea were also affected. So the sea froze, kind of like in the Arctic, right? This is kind of fun for people because they had these massive frost fairs, but also it was pretty tough, obviously. So people couldn't farm stuff, so food prices rose, supplies couldn't get in because the ocean was frozen, and wood for heating became scarce because everyone was so cold.
But back to the nice frost fairs.
So we think that this little ice age happened because there are like cyclical lows in solar radiation. Maybe they think that's one suggestion.
Cool.
Heightened volcanic activity, so that would mean that there was like greater particulate matter in the air, which made the sunlight. It was harder for the sun to get in and heat.
Kind of like a reverse greenhouse gas effect, where it it's like a little layer protecting us from the sun.
Totally. Changes in ocean circulation, so stuff like the Gulf Stream, I guess, and variations in the Earth's orbit and axial tilt, and just variability in global climate. Like sometimes that changes, or they thought maybe there was a decrease in the human population, and that has made things colder. So those are some suggestions.
I've heard some theories along that line before.
Yeah.
Cool.
That'd be freaky, eh? So the other factor that meant that these frost fairs could happen was human-made. So Old London Bridge, which spanned the Thames between the city and Southwark, so that's pretty much where it is now.
Yeah.
Was kind of squeezy. So it had like smaller arches.
Yeah.
And it was crowded with like shops and houses and all sorts of shit, which meant that it was harder for the water to get through underneath it. So when ice started to form in these super cold winters that were being caused by the little ice age, it meant that the ice had more chance to stay still and freeze better.
Bridges these days are so boring, just being useful for traffic flow and whatnot.
Just doing a good job of letting the river flow.
Ugh, awful.
So that's kind of a brief summary. The first one took place in 1408, which is kind of at the start of that little ice age that we talked about. But I first heard about frost fairs in Virginia Woolf's Orlando, which is one of my favourite books. It's a beautifully written, gorgeous story about this Orlando, who lives for 4 centuries and has all sorts of crazy adventures and changes his gender halfway through and becomes a Lady Orlando.
Orlando?
No, it doesn't change. No, just Orlando. Anyway. And I'd like to read you a little bit of it, just because it gives you this like amazing picture of what a frost fair might have been like, from Virginia Woolf, who is just delightful. Okay, so the Great Frost was, historians tell us, the most severe that ever visited these islands. Birds froze in mid-air and fell like stones to the ground. But while the country people suffered the extremity of want and the trade of the country was at a standstill, London enjoyed a carnival of the utmost brilliancy. The new king seized the opportunity that his coronation gave him to curry favour with the citizens. He directed that the river, which was frozen to a depth of 20 feet or more for 6 or 7 miles on either side, should be swept, decorated, and given all the semblance of a park or pleasure ground. Here and there burnt vast bonfires of cedar and oak wood, lavishly salted so that the flames were of green, orange, and purple fire. But however fiercely they burned, the heat was not enough to melt the ice which, though of a singular transparency, was yet of the hardness of steel. So clear indeed was it that they could be seen congealed at a depth of several feet, here a porpoise, there a flounder. Shoals of eels lay motionless in a trance, but whether their state was of death or merely of suspended animation which the warmth would revive, puzzled the philosophers. Near London Bridge, where the river had frozen to a depth of some 20 fathoms, a wrecked wherry-boat was plainly visible, lying on the bed of the river where it had sunk last autumn, overladen with apples. The old bumboat woman who was carrying her fruit to market on the Surrey side sat there in her plaids and farthingales with her lap full of apples, for all the world as if she was about to serve a customer, though a certain blueness about the lips hinted the truth. Ooh, it's so beautiful.
So magical.
So obviously...
I mean, sorry about the old lady, but
I know,
doesn't it sound wonderful?
It sounds gorgeous. And, you know, she was a writer, not a historian. So she's exaggerating.
Much like us.
Yeah, much like us, Virginia. So the river only ever froze to a depth of 11 inches, not 20 fathoms.
Is 11 inches all you would need to support people wandering around?
Well, people did wander around, so yeah.
Cool.
So she's done a pretty good job, actually, because they had all sorts of crazy stuff in these frost fairs. They had football pitches, bowling matches, barbers, shoemakers, stalls and ice skating rinks, pubs, and, like Virginia Woolf says, big fires that they had just on the ice, which seems fucking risky.
Yeah, you're really taking it into your own hands at that point.
So I'm going to read you a few accounts of these frost fairs that aren't from 20th century writers' perspectives, but from people who are actually there.
Ooh,
which is pretty cool. First-hand accounts. So this is from John Chamberlain, who said of the 1607 to 8 frost fair, so that's the winter of 1607 to 8, above Westminster the Thames is quite frozen over, and the Archbishop came from Lambeth on 12th day over the ice to the court. Many fantastical experiments are daily put in practice, as certain youths burnt a gallon of wine upon the ice and made all the passengers partakers. But the best is of an honest woman, they say, that had a great longing to have her husband get her with child upon the Thames. There's just this woman who just wants to bone her husband every day on the Thames trying to have a baby. There you go.
That's an ambition.
It'd be pretty cool to say you were conceived on the Thames.
I mean, you can just do that with a boat, though. Yeah, a frozen Thames is cooler. I will grant her that.
In 1635, a guy called William Baker wrote a poem about the frost fair. It was entirely in Latin and in hexameter verse. So he was trying to be a bit like Virgil.
He's just trying too hard.
He's trying very hard.
I mean, the Thames is frozen, mate. That's good enough.
It's pretty cute, though, because he describes the city folk play various games at the crossroads. Cheekily, they forget the benefits of earning a living. And elsewhere, the happy crowd runs about on the treacherous ice, and they pack the snow into balls so that they can attack the enemy with these. Isn't that cute? So they're hurling snowballs at each other and not working, because fuck that.
So it seems like everyone's having a great time.
Everyone's having a great time.
I mean, ignoring all the people who were starving and freezing to death, everyone else was having a great time.
Yeah. the eminent London writer John Evelyn wrote in 1684 that it was just like the streets, so people were sliding with skeets, which I think is skates. There was bull baiting, horse and coast races, puppet plays, interludes. I guess that's a type of play. Not sure.
I'm going to call you the expert on that and say if you think it's a play, it's a play.
An interlude. Cooks, tippling and other lewd places, so that it seemed a bacchanalian triumph or carnival on the water.
Wow.
Yeah.
Sounds wild.
They were having a great time. But some bad things happened too, Claire. So you were wondering before whether 11 inches is enough for people.
Not for everyone.
Not for everyone. So, for example, in 1739, a large piece of the ice gave way and tents, businesses and people were swept away, which would have been kind of brutal. And in 1789, this one would be funny, but people also got hurt. A ship captain decided that the best way to keep his boat in the ice was to anchor it into the basement of a pub that was just on the shore. So he put the anchor in the basement of a pub. But then one night the ice thawed quite quickly and the boat started to pull away and just pulled the whole pub down.
Wow.
Because the anchor was in the pub. Don't keep your anchors in the pub, guys. So, yeah.
I've just seen too much. I've just watched Little Women at a formative time in my life, and I never trust ice.
No, oh yeah, she falls through, doesn't she? Which character is that?
Kirsten Dunst? Yeah, that character.
The young one.
Yeah.
The little one. Yes.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
And it's like everyone else is skating around having a great time, and she just falls through the ice, and it's like,
not good.
Shady.
Yeah, it kind of terrifies me because I don't know anything about ice. I don't know how it freezes or how it works.
It seems like a very unfun way to go.
Oh, yeah, because you get swept downstream, don't you? And you can't get up. Scary. Scary, scary. So there are about 24 frost fairs in total. So taking place from, what did I say? The first one was 1408.
It's a lot more than I would have anticipated.
Yeah, 24. So they pretty much any chance they got, like any chance that there was a really cold winter, straight away, frost fair party times.
City shuts down. Let's call it party on the ice.
Mm-hmm. And the last ever frost fair took place in 1814 to 15. And we have a lovely description of it from the writer, satirist and bookseller William Hone. At every glance, there was a novelty of some kind or other. Gaming was carried out on all its branches. Many of the itinerant admirers of the profits gained by EO tables, rouge et noir, teetotum, wheel of fortune, I think they're gambling, the garter, were industrious in their avocations, and some of their customers left the lures without a penny to pay the passage over a plank to the shore. So you must have had to pay to go onto the shore by a plank. Skittles were played by several parties, and the drinking tents were filled by females. Oh no. And their companions wild, dancing reels to the sound of fiddles, while others sat round large fires again, drinking rum, grog, and other spirits. Tea, coffee, all eatables were provided in abundance, and passengers were invited to eat by way of recording their visit. Interesting. So there you go. That was the last ever Thames Frost Fair. But also that year, they led an elephant across the Thames, the ice, to prove...
Was it okay?
Yeah, everyone was fine. Oh. Mental.
Wow.
Yeah.
Aww.
And then in 1831, they built a new London Bridge that was kind of better at being a bridge and let the water run more freely. So then the ice stopped building up and there were no more frost fairs. Yeah.
That's such a waste.
It is so sad. But Claire, you know what? Frozen river festivals still kind of happen.
And I'll never trust a single one of them.
But I think you should. They look kind of cool.
Where can I see a frozen river fair today?
Well, Claire, there are lots of snow and ice festivals in China, Japan, Norway, Sweden, cold places, lots of cold places. In South Korea, they have a trout ice fishing festival where they like knock holes in the ice and go fishing.
Fishing ain't my jam.
In Canada, they have an iceberg festival. Quite cool. But the only actual frozen river festival that I could find is in Soldotna in Alaska. So it's got live music, bonfires, food vendors, and a beer garden.
Do they have an elephant, though?
Look, it's Canada. So, I mean, Alaska. I hope not.
Yeah. Poor elephant.
Maybe they have a bear.
True.
It could be quite cool. A happy bear.
So, trip to Alaska next winter?
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Sold.
So those are frost bears.
So cool. Thank you.
My pleasure.
Well, I'm going to tell you about something I think we all know about.
Mm-hmm.
It's a good old-fashioned tongue twister. I do believe you will have heard of this.
Okay.
I'm going to give it a crack.
Warm up your voice.
Take 73. She sells seashells on the seashore. The shells she sells are seashells, I'm sure. So if she sells seashells on the seashore, then I'm sure she sells seashells. Seashore shells. So close.
You smashed that. Well
Thanks. Well-known childhood
It's a catchy
rhyme.
one.
Yes. There is a rumour that this is, well, based on a woman.
Really?
A lady called...
A seashell selling woman?
Yes, a lady called Mary Anning.
Mm-hmm.
So the tongue twister itself is actually lyrics from a 1908 song by Terry Sullivan. It went like that. That's all the information I could find on it. But Mary Anning herself was from much earlier. She was born on the 21st of May, 1799.
Mm-hmm.
And she was a fossil collector.
Amazing.
So she lived in Lyme Regis, which is in the county of Dorset in southwest England.
Pretty.
And she has become widely known for really important finds in Jurassic marine fossils.
Whoa.
I first learned about her from Bill Bryson's A Short History of Nearly Everything.
Oh, fantastic.
Yes.
Cool.
Which I read when I was 18 and travelling. And it just really stuck with me. I mean, in part because he writes quite well, but just this idea of this lady prancing around in a bonnet digging out fossils.
Yeah.
Sounded so fun.
I think you find the best fossils when you're prancing, too,
Yes,
I've heard.
yeah. And she was definitely prancing. That's a matter of historical record. But to give it some context, so southern England during the late Jurassic to early Jurassic period was under a tropical sea.
Whoa, cool.
Yeah, and seabeds make for really good fossil creation because it's all mud and silt.
Okay, cool.
So when things die and they land there, it all preserves them really well.
Okay, cool.
So the White Cliffs of Dover is all just like chalky seabed.
Cool.
Yeah,
oh my
so
goodness.
it's just full of fossils.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So, sorry, just to get this straight in my mind. So Lyme Regis, that's on the south coast of England. Okay,
Yes.
so it's still that kind of...
Yeah, the White Cliffs of Dover is southeast.
Okay.
Lyme Regis is southwest.
Okay, cool.
But it's all the same. Like that whole southern area of Britain was a tropical seabed at one point that has since risen
Lifted up.
Yeah.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah. So that was where Mary grew up. During her lifetime, it was a resort town. The other reason
Like in Jane Austen?
Yes. It's the only time I've ever heard of Lyme Regis. It's referenced in Persuasion, where they do reference fossils, though I didn't realize at the time they were called, because they called them curios.
Oh, okay.
And people would go to Lyme Regis and buy curios, which were just all the fossils people would find.
Bits of old animals.
Yes.
Gosh.
Which is what Mary ended up doing. So her dad was a cabinet maker, but he passed away when she was 11, which is very sad because she had to start hunting fossils full-time to provide for her family.
Wow, what a crazy thing to have to do to make money.
I know, child labour laws, not a thing yet. And so not long after that, when she was 12, her and her brother made like their first big discovery.
Ooh, yeah.
Which was a complete ichthyosaur skeleton.
Holy, that's a good discovery.
I don't think I did anything cool when I was 12.
I definitely didn't find any ichthyosaurs.
Yeah, nothing to do with dinosaurs.
Are they
for sure.
the fishy guys? Are they the
They're
fishy
basically
dinosaurs?
giant dolphins with like extra fins.
Okay, magic.
Yeah. There's a lot of fishy dinosaurs. Okay. Yeah, like a lot. It turns
Jurassic
out.
Park has led me to believe that
There
there's
is
just
one
giant,
mega one.
Yeah.
No, he has friends. It was the first one to ever be correctly identified, and she went on to discover 2 more species of ichthyosaur in her lifetime. She also discovered the first complete plesiosaur skeleton, which was her most famous find, and the first pterosaur skeleton located outside of Germany, and the first complete remains to be discovered anywhere of a pterosaur.
What a superstar.
Yeah, so she was just out there on these cliffs and on the beach just digging up fossils.
Wow.
And so originally selling to tourists, but then started selling them to collectors and to other paleontologists.
I guess she was like, this is a whole ichthyosaur.
It's a whole damn dinosaur. You're going to have to pay up. Yeah. She also discovered fossilized poop.
Ooh, handy.
Yep. Her observations played a key role in the discovery that coprolites, known as bezoar stones at the time, were actually fossilized feces.
Wow, cool.
Yes. However, because she was a woman and because it was the olden days, she did not always receive full credit for her scientific contributions, or indeed much credit at all.
Surprise, surprise.
Yeah, she once wrote in a letter, "The world has used me so unkindly. I fear it has made me suspicious of everyone." So, she was aware that what she was discovering was important, but she knew what she was doing and knew that she was being passed over.
Oh, gosh.
Yes. The only scientific writing of hers published in her lifetime appeared in the Magazine of Natural History in 1839 and was an extract from a letter that Anning had written to the magazine's editor questioning one of its claims.
Okay.
Yeah. So as a woman, she wasn't eligible to join the Geological Society of London, but she was frequently consulted on matters of anatomy and fossil collection.
Cool.
Yeah, so she wasn't allowed to join, but they did hold her in high esteem.
They did use her.
Yeah, and her, impressive knowledge.
Okay.
Yes. She named the pterosaur skeleton she discovered Pterodactylus macronix, but it was later renamed by Richard Owen as Dimorphodon macronix.
I like her name better.
Yeah. Also, she found it first.
Yeah, she gets
should have
naming
named
rights.
it. Yeah. But everyone ended up going with Richard Owen's choice, which
because he
unimpressive.
had a penis.
Yeah. Some people did respect her within the community, though. She had friends. When geologist Henry de la Beche painted Duria Antiquior, the first widely circulated pictorial representation of a scene from prehistoric life, it was derived from fossil reconstructions he based largely on fossils Anning had found, and he sold prints of it for her benefit.
Wow, cool. That's great.
So she didn't have a lot of financial stability in her life, even though she was selling all these fossils and making these huge finds. It never translated to huge financial success, so she did have to rely on a lot of charity and a lot of kindness from people, unfortunately.
Okay.
But, she did have a few friends in the community, which helped. Unfortunately, it's been very difficult to trace a lot of her finds because museums only record the names of the donors because they're more interested in the rich person who gave them the thing than the actual thing and its history.
So when did she give her stuff to the Natural History Museum? Or?
Well, often a rich person would buy it and then donate it, but they wouldn't make a record of who had found it.
Okay, because she couldn't afford to just give it to people because she was trying to make a living. Yeah,
she'd have to sell it. Yeah.
Ugh.
However, there is her second plesiosaur that she found does hang at the Natural History Museum in London. And it is credited to her. And I've seen it. It's very impressive. Yeah.
It's a nice little dinosaur.
It's massive.
A nice big dinosaur.
It's like 3 meters long. It's huge.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. That's why it's so impressive that she was just finding these whole skeletons. Yeah. They're not small pieces. They're absolutely huge.
How did she get them out, I wonder?
Very slowly.
Yeah,
very
right.
slowly. Yeah, which is also why it's kind of frustrating that she was so overlooked professionally because she was very delicately removing and reconstructing these huge fossils.
Yeah.
Yeah. So in the last decades of her life, she received an annuity from the British Association for the Advancement of Sciences, and the Geological Society of London collected a stipend for her, and she was named the first honorary member of the new Dorset County Museum 1 year before her death from breast cancer. So she did receive some recognition in her lifetime and some support from the wider scientific community. But unfortunately, she did pass away from breast cancer at the age of 47 in 1847. Yeah, but she had done amazing work. Her obituary was published in the Quarterly Journal of the Geological Society, an organisation that still would not admit women until 1904. So it was a huge honour.
Yeah.
And in March 2010, the Royal Society released a list of the 10 British women who have most influenced the history of science, and Anning was on the list.
Aww, that's so funny.
She's really cool. So it's just really funny having this, like, little tongue twister, you know, as a kid, and finding out that there is more history to it. Like, it's debated how much it was written about her, because no one ever lets me have any fun. But knowing that there is any association between her and this tongue twister is just really funny, because you always hear it as a kid, and then you find out there's this, like, badass scientific woman out there.
Yeah,
digging out fossils.
Science.
Yeah.
That's fucking cool.
Yeah. And now I kind of want to go to Lyme Regis.
I would love to go to Lyme Regis. Do you want to go to Lyme Regis?
Yes, let's go find our own fossils.
Oh my goodness.
Yes. So yeah, there's some little bits of British history for you.
Thanks for listening. We're going to try and do one of these every fortnight, so keep an ear out.
Emphasis on try.
But yeah.
You can find us on all the places you find podcasts.
And Spotify.
iTunes. Other places like the internet.
Podcast Addict, maybe. We're going to give that a crack.
Yeah, we'll be around. You'll find us.
Yeah.
But thanks for listening.
Thanks for listening, team. Bye.
Bye.